Hello everyone. This week was a big one. At least it certainly feels that way. As with most updates that I do that are focused around the city, a lot of little things and a few really big things are coming together to make some big changes to Roots. I'll start off by talking about the one that you guys have been anticipating for, I think, the longest time. It's something that I had told you guys about in the community a while back that I was always planning on putting together. The building kit. A tool which serves as a replacement for having to build things out of money. Just a feature on a lot of RP servers that I never really much cared for. I understood the point of it. I get why they design their servers around building things costing money, but on Roots, I wanted things to be a little bit different. What the building kit does is you equip it, and while it's equipped, you can freely spawn props, and you will also have full access to your tool gun. This includes the advanced duplicator tool. It also includes a new tool that I just made this week, the Roots Shadow Remover tool. It's very simple, it's very handy for decorating. You click on a prop with this, and it removes the dynamic shadow that it is casted. And there are cases where you would like to do this so that you can make things hung on walls and ceilings, not cast really ugly, non-directional shadows to them. The combination of Advanced Duplicator 2 and the ability to free build without additional cost is really big, because you can make a very large detailed dupe, like let's say you decorate a shop that you run, and then you can save it and paste it down whenever you want, without having to worry about it cutting into the profits that you would be making out of that shop. In addition, you no longer have to run into that age-old scenario where you accidentally paste down the wrong dupe and cost yourself hundreds and hundreds of credits on accident, having to then delete it and paste down the real one. I know I've had that happen to me a number of times in the past, and I wanted to do something to help prevent that happening to others in the future. Now, with this great power comes great responsibility, of course. With the ability to free build, it presents certain problems, like, namely, it's a lot easier for people to build structures that could perhaps damage the RP environment in some way. But, don't worry, there's another tool that's been added which amends that very thing. Civil Protection, I3s and above, alongside their standard issue pistol, are also given a plasma cutter. This plasma cutter has the ability to break through physics props, and as such it can be used to clean up and destroy things which are necessary for the Combine to get rid of, such as buildings in places they shouldn't be, or barriers that are blocking access to places the Civil Protection needs to go. While this does allow Civil Protection to get through, essentially, prop block, the rules on prop abuse are unchanged. Everything is exactly the same it was. Even though CPs can get rid of prop block, in a sense, it's still against the rules, because CPs might not always be able to, and they also might not always be available, and so it can't be relied on as something to override the rule. Rather, this is more a replacement for the scenario that we used to witness, where Civil Protection would intend on taking down a structure that a citizen had made, so they would make an F3 report to call an admin and then whack it with their stun stick for a couple of minutes, waiting for the admin to delete it. This allows you to delete the structure yourself. Of course, deleting any random structure would be just as abusive as spamming props in the plaza, and so you have to be careful not to go beyond what your authority allows and destroy every little thing that you see, because you will get demoted or even defuncted quite quickly if you abuse this technology. The creation and destruction, I think, is going to bring a lot to Roots. The atmosphere, being able to build your own stores in the streets and inside buildings. A lot of the rebel structures that people used to put together no longer are going to bankrupt you. You can actually build these things just for fun. Spend some time on the server, tinker around a little bit, and when you're done, you can save it before you leave. And nothing was lost. You can pick it right back up again next time you hop on the server. But of course, that's not the only thing that I did this week. I'll tell you about a few more of the changes that I made that are notable or important, especially some of the major bugs that have been fixed. Many consumable items actually spawn leftover junk when you're done using them. For example, you drink a beer, the empty bottle spawns in front of you as a physics prop that you can pick up and throw around. Same goes with things like Chinese food takeout boxes and the Dr. Breen's Private Reserve cans, stuff like that. The shop that was seen in Precinct 15 is now fully operational. You can go in there, the door is no longer locked by default, and there's also a box in there. So if you wanted to run the shop in order to loot the box and sell its contents or keep them for yourself, now that's available for you. As long as it's not trespassing, that is. I also fixed the pistol firing sound, so now it actually uses the original 9mm sound rather than the alternate one that sounds a lot weaker. This is the same sort of sound that you would hear when the Metro cops in Half-Life 2 are shooting at you. It sounds a lot nicer, a lot more powerful. As powerful as it should, because the 9mm on Roots is actually one of the most powerful and effective weapons you can get your hands on. I made lots of other little updates to the map that you'll see in person, but that's kind of its own thing, I guess. Exploration is the best way to experience that. Another thing that affects civil protection, I made dispatch more observant and responsive. So you have to be a little bit more careful if you're wanting to be corrupt, because it might not go as unnoticed as you initially assumed. The lockpick is now usable by citizens who have the industrial worker job. So not only can you craft it, but now you can actually use it without having to leave the city and come back. I think that's a very welcome change. In other words, anybody with mechanical capability, quote unquote, is able to use the lockpick. So industrial workers and engineers. This next change is really welcome for a lot of you, I know. I went through the melee weapons hit registration code and I fixed it. I noticed that there were some problems in there that were causing it to not register hits when it normally should have, so I fixed it, and now it should be a lot more reliable, even if things are getting a little bit laggy. It's not perfect. Hit registration in multiplayer is always going to be a little, unreliable at times, but I significantly improved what we had before, and it should be way, way better. Another major fix that's going to affect people who like to do a bit of PvP, the crosshair is now fixed on things that you're actually able to shoot through. So before, the 3D crosshair that we use would actually get caught up on something like a fence, even though you can shoot through it. So it wouldn't be aiming at the wall behind that you were actually going to have your bullet land on. It would be, on the actual fence itself. So that's fixed now. Wherever you're pointing your gun is where the crosshair is going to go, and if the bullet can land there, then the crosshair will be there too. Also related to aiming, and arguably even more important, is that I fixed the issue that stability had. Now, those of you might know, stability is a system where if you aren't fully crouched or if you're jumping in the air, your aim and your recoil is insane. Now, there was some problems with it where it would happen randomly, essentially when you're going up slopes and stairs and stuff like that, and it made combat in certain areas impossible. That is totally fixed now. I fixed some issues that Overwatch had. Last week you may have noticed scanners freaking out. They don't do that anymore, or at least not for the same reason. The exploits related to the items that Civil Protection had, being droppable or sometimes sticking in your inventory at times when they shouldn't, such as when the server would restart, that's now fixed. And the last thing that I'll mention, it's also kind of a new feature, is that applying is fixed. So when you apply to show your ID, it now correctly shows things like your license, like an industrial permit. And now it also actually shows what precinct you've been assigned to. So if you're going to a precinct, then Civil Protection needs to know that you belong, you can apply to show your ID to them. Yes, well, I think that about covers all of the major stuff. You can find the rest on your own in-game, as usual. I hope that you enjoy the stuff that I did this week for Roots, and I hope to see you in-game sometime soon.